This is a production put by Esther Mir and Karina Valentine entitled Babies Lead to One Step Further. Today we will be discussing one of the great topics of Chicago, the Chicago Maternity Center. The Chicago Maternity Center was founded in 1895 by Dr. Joseph D. Lee. It was located on what we would now call the west side of Chicago. The Chicago Maternity Center later closed in 1973, but that never stopped the families and women of the center for being grateful for the care that they received, and it helped them in enormous ways that had a positive impact in their lives forever. The Chicago Maternity Center helped to provide Chicago women with the opportunity to give birth at home, which was beneficial to many and made a lasting impact on the people they helped, and also represented strong leadership through their actions. The doctors at the CMC were able to take those in need and provide them the essential needs, even if it meant going against social norms, marking the definition of leadership.
The Chicago Maternity Center was a center created for Chicago pregnant women, but also for women seeking help from around the world. They wanted the help to deliver their babies in a safe and secure environment. And because of the help the center had provided for homes all around Chicago, a movie was made to show a live delivery of a young pregnant woman and the continuous fight to stay open in the face of the corporate takeover of medicine.
At the Chicago Maternity Center, Dr. D. Lee trained midwives and doctors on how to provide safe deliveries at home and how to nurse sick women. The Chicago Maternity Center faced challenges from the very beginning to the end because Northwestern Hospital refused to help fund the center and they had to close down at the end. People had different mindsets on modern medicine and if women should receive care at home.
Because we don't want to go broke and end up in the bankruptcy court, and because there isn't apparently the demand for it.
Whether health care is delivered first class,
the nurses and midwives, that's Dr. Lee.
It all makes someone a profit.
The nurses and midwives that Dr. Dilly trained were very crafted in these skills. They were versed in obstetrics. Dr. Tucker and Dr. Benaron were two of the top doctors at the center, and Dr. Tucker was the head of the organization. Dr. Tucker faced ridicule in the beginning even from Dr. Dilly because he didn't believe women should have the profession of a doctor. But with her great work and skills, he was proved wrong.
Don't you think that's pretty nice?
Dr. Tucker helped to run some of the first clinics for trainees and visit patients on an individual basis. Often midwives, nurses, and doctors would keep journals on their patients and their health. They wanted to be able to provide the best but safest care they could for women. A lot of the times women chose to have their babies at home because they couldn't afford hospital fees. At the time period, child mortality rates were very low, and most infants would die at birth or soon after. The Chicago Maternity had about a 95% survival rate for infants just born.
In this picture, you will notice that they are doing the delivery operation in a house. This happened the first 4 years the center was open because it was termed the traveling hospital because they took their supplies to the houses of the women patients and did their job there. The institution had a purpose for being created. Reason one was it made to help take care of poor women in their homes during the time of confinement, childbirth. It was also to teach student doctors and medical students and nurses the science and art of obstetrics. This center had the ability to deliver about 3,000 women in their homes each year. The shocking news in the modern day is that of the 2.2 million babies born in America each year, about 1.4 million or 60% are still born at home. Shocking, right? In the 4 years' time the center was opened, 14.355 women received some type of care, like through labor or pregnancy in their own homes.
Dr. D. Lee was a dedicated and strong-willed man for obstetrics. He faced difficulties with his organization because some of his sponsors, like Northwestern, reduced their funding. Dr. D. Lee and his staff had to work to maintain the center on their own using their money and special grants. The center was eventually closed in 1973 because they could no longer afford to stay open. Many people were angered with the decision because of all the great work the center had done over the years. Women and families even petitioned to keep the center open. Women didn't know what they would do without the center. This showed the impact it had on people's lives. Dr. D. Lee was a leader for his time because he helped to contribute new forms of medicine and care for obstetrics.
The Chicago Maternity Center left a legacy for the people. The center was facing closure due to financial power. Women voiced their opinions on how the center had really helped them, and a movie was even created in honor of keeping the center. This shows how the CMC had a positive impact on people's lives. It created a legacy for itself with its innovations in medicine and obstetrics. The doctors and midwives also put their patients before them and went out of their way to provide the best care that they could demonstrating through leadership, even though they had to face challenges with financing the center and being low-staffed at times. They made it work. Dr. Dilly and Dr. Tucker and Dr. Brennan were great leaders who never gave up.
Dr. Tucker and Dr. D. Lee opened the doors to a new way of medicine and childbirth. There were citizens who were oppressed to the idea of letting women have childbirth at home. After many of them saw the kind of work the center did, their mindset began to change. During the time period of 1895 through 1973, many diseases existed and was often the reason of child death. The biggest one among children was childbed fever, which was caused by the use of unsterilized tools in the womb of a pregnant woman and most often led to deaths of an infant. The nurses and midwives at the CMC took extra care in making sure they disinfected used tools and made sure staff were clean. With these actions, it increased the child mortality rate drastically.
In this paragraph, you will notice that in the early 1900s, babies often lost their lives during delivery because during the 1900s, there were not enough medical equipment that was advanced enough to safely help bring a child to life. You were often lucky if your baby survived, meaning it was often your baby had 50% chance of surviving. You also had a 50% chance of keeping your baby with the help of the Chicago Maternity Center. All these precious souls, which the babies were born into the world are safe and sound. Also, there is a statement referring to the founder of the Chicago Maternity Center, and a comment was made by Dr. Tucker and Dr. Brennan. He says, I quote, "The rate for the center would fall to 0.9% or less than one death for every 1,000 live births. This shows the improvement and the impact the center and the capability of
To leave a legacy for others is an important and big thing. A legacy can help people to realize what contributions the center was able to make and pave the way for more interesting innovations. CMC was able to leave a legacy due to the staff's capacity for hard work and dedication. Women who often received help from the center were so poor and didn't know if they could even have their children. The center provided them with hope and let them have a bright future with their children. The doctors and nurses sacrificed their time and even their money to make sure these women could have safe pregnancies, showing their selfless acts.
being a role model is the selfless act of someone when they do something to help humanity and not caring if they will recognize. The CMC is an example of what a true role model is supposed to be. They brought help when it was really needed in the society. They were selfless by not thinking how much money they would gain from doing it, but they thought about saving people's life. One of the quotes about leaders: a true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others. He does not say as a big leader, but because of his quality of his actions and integrity of his intent, by Douglas MacArthur. The actions of the Chicago Maternity Center brought the center into the limelight because their actions led to hope for the people who had little hope. The center became an inspiration to the community through their help.
A leader and hero can take on many different definitions of people, but Dr. Lee and Dr. Tucker were leaders and heroes no matter what others shall say. Not only were they able to defy the odds of what they thought was possible, they changed the lives of so many women. In a time during the Great Depression and disease-ridden years, happiness was a very rare to come by. The CMC and the women's families of these women were for once able to feel the kind of joy and relief again. They saved the lives of so many children who may have not had the opportunity to even been born otherwise. The doctors in the center all contributed to the new path in obstetrics, and even though it was closed down, they left the foundations for others to follow. The CMC was a legacy for Chicago.